Welcome to Three Questions With. I'm Hugo, publisher of the Latino News Network and your host. Three Questions With is a public affairs program elevating the voices and visibility of matters most important to the Hispanic-Latino community by speaking with community and industry thought leaders on the social determinants of health and democracy. After-school programs offer mentoring and positive role models for youth. Besides academic support, after-school programs offer a wide range of enrichment activities that promote the holistic development of youth. From sports and arts to music and drama, these programs provide an opportunity for young people to explore their interests and talents outside the traditional classroom setting. The exposure to different activities can broaden their perspectives, improve their social skills, and foster a sense of belonging within a community. Carlos Matallana is the founder and developer of Blok by Blok Podcast Club Chicago, a youth-led podcast club. He is our guest today. Carlos, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So let's start the conversation with your passion for education. Tell us about your background in that regard.
Okay. Yes, I think I can divide my passion for education in two aspects. First, curiosity, and then joy. Back in 2005 or 2006, I was invited by a friend to be an assistant teacher for her graphic design class at an after-school matter program at the Gallery 37 in Chicago. And after helping her, I realized firsthand how the teenagers were like misread or mislabeled or misunderstood. They were like labeled as like reckless or rebels without cause. And but no, they were sweet. They were curious. They were full of ideas. That led me to propose and develop the first web design curriculum program for after-school matters, and that ran at Gallery 37. And that was the beginning of like the Web 2.0. which is the content creators as we know it now. So by the end of the program, we ended up having a website totally coded by kids about either reggaeton or basketball or about LGBT resources for the community. So it was all totally developed by them. All we did was like provide them with the skills to like code and publish online. So yeah, that's and that was just teenagers.
Now, another passion of yours to go along with education is illustration. Tell us about your work in that space.
Sure. That actually relates to the second aspect of the passion for education, which is joy. I really enjoy drawing since I was a little kid. And then thanks to that, I developed also a comic book program with the after-school programs in Chicago. That one ran in different schools in the city, around 8 schools, 8 different after-school programs. And so the familiarity with the youth, Chicago's youth, led me to understand the impact that the closing of the CPS schools back in, I think it was 2017 or 2016, the impact that had on the children. So that led me to work on a comic book and a graphic novel called Brea. That was partially sponsored by DCASE, the Department of Cultural Affairs from Chicago. And most recently, I'm doing art reviews in a comic format in an online periodical publication, which is called 60 Inches from the Center. That's the website, how the website's called. And I'm collaborating with the Colombian Consulate to develop a coloring book that speaks not only to child, but the child that it's among adults, like inside us, each of us. And the idea is to foster solidarity, belonging, and community work. So those are like,
Curiosity and joy. I think one of the things that really resonates in the work that you're doing is youth producing content by them, for them, and then using the medium of comics as a way to connect with them, not just with the youth, but like you said, also the youth within us. And I think it's really interesting. Too often, young people are ignored or not giving the attention and, to certain aspects, respect in working in that space. Now, that brings me to the second topic that I wanted to talk to you about,
Sure.
and again, providing a platform for young people to express themselves, and that is the podcast Blok by Blok. It's a student-led program. Tell us about that.
Sure. That's actually that's out of curiosity too. That was back in 2016 with the presidential election. I remember the conversations among students. They feared about their families' separations, about their own safety, and that happened in Black and Brown communities. Those conversations were popping up here and there. They led to potential solutions, like among themselves. So I was kind of like, okay, let's aim for an effective way to share and preserve those conversations. That led to like the best format is a podcast. So we are like teaching them and giving them the tools to like develop their own stories, so their own ideas in a podcast format. And some of them can be just about pizza or the ice cream parlor in the corner, or segregation, or how they reimagine monuments. So it's different topics that, all the content and the ideas are provided by the students.
And it's a very important perspective. A lot of times, if you're talking about immigrant families, your children of immigrants, there's a lot of trauma that's happening that is often not addressed. There's a lot of also disconnect in that the parents shield their children of the trauma that they left and perhaps carried with them. So to have a platform like Blok by Blok to be able to express real adult issues that are also affecting children are really important. You mentioned one of the episodes talking about monuments, and in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of conversations about monuments, especially in the South, in regards to monuments addressing Civil War leaders, Confederate leaders, and that image and what it does to the African American community. More closer to home, there's been a lot of talk about Christopher Columbus and even that day and what the impact that has to indigenous people. In regard to we're in an election year, and you mentioned I think a little bit about politics. What are some of the themes that the children are looking to get involved with as we're entering the presidential election?
I think the first one and foremost, that the one that always pops up, it's personal safety. The youth is actually more concerned about their like closer context. It's like, the context that they can handle, like just walking from home to school and getting back safe. That's their first concern, and especially in a city like Chicago. And or some students need to use the public transportation. So those things are like very like their first concern. And then trying to like navigate not just the city, but all the safety or and then that resonates with the guns. There's like guns everywhere, so they are like afraid of like that, and that's the first. And it's been like we're in our 7th season now, and it's been there constantly, like how they fear by their safety. I hear like from their own students how they are like a neighbor or a friend from school or someone got affected by violence. So that reverberates on their own, life experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Public safety
Yeah.
is such an important aspect of a motivating factor when it comes to elections, whether it be presidential elections, local elections. And as you said, those are lived experiences that young people deal with day in and day out, whether it's taking public transportation, of course, certainly the overwhelmingness of gun violence. One of the things that I also wanted to talk to you about that connected us is the Multicultural Leadership Academy that is sponsored by the Latino Policy Forum. You were a 2023 cohort. Tell us about that experience.
Sure. It was a great experience altogether. But basically, it's like different sessions. We learn a lot, and not only from the community, in general, like the community of non-for-profits that serve our own communities, but also how when we engage in like the personal or trying to help people or support communities, we tend to focus in or zoom in basically and try to like support that person or that family or whoever is, or like that group of students. And then we sometimes forget about the social effect on that, how like, yes, we are concerned about creating the wave, but how is that wave gonna be received somewhere else? How can we like maybe partner with other organizations that can create a bigger wave and create a more like, a bigger impact and a positive impact in people's lives? And not in this case just youth, but families in general. So that's one thing that I definitely learned, like zoom out and kind of like see what are the resources and try to like work together, and that's the best way. Black and brown communities, we shared a lot of we faced a lot of challenges, like similar challenges, but at the same time our connections are based on values too, similar values. And I can, like after session after session with the group, I was able to identify three. First is family, food, and flow. I mean, I keep the three Fs just because, but it's music and the flow, how people go with the mood and how they read the room, how they the connections. So I think those three elements are key for us, like as individuals that want to create change and want to promote change. If we have those three things covered, we can actually move on to like help other people. So remember, family, food, and flow. We tend to listen to music. We tend to like enjoy company with our families, and the food is always present.
I think that's a great image of taking a step back, where we often are leaning in and rushing to fix a problem, and there's many problems to fix. But I think we don't often enough take a step back to look at the situation from a different perspective, and not just look at the problem, but look at the opportunities in that adversity. And I also think one of the common threads with the MLA program is coalition building and really bridge building with other communities. You mentioned the Black community, to see that we have a lot of commonalities, not just, as you said, the problems, but also the values. I think that's really powerful. And like you said, what is it? What are the three F's? Food,
family, and flow.
Food, family, and flow. Look, food is a great bridge builder, right? A connector. That's where we get to experience other cultures, but also create an environment to have conversations, sometimes uncomfortable conversations. You're watching Three Questions with Carlos Matallana, founder and developer of Blok by Blok. When we come back, this native from Bogota, Colombia, is going to talk to us about how his lived experience helped shape the work that he leads today.
Hello, I'm Kimberly Loftus. On the next edition of In the Money, we'll discuss how you can build a solid financial base with my guest, Tani Fair, and licensed clinical social worker, Tamika Hill.
Discipline works better for me. I have to have someone telling me to do it or some type of accountability.
Join the conversation Thursday at 7 p.m. on CAN TV Cable Channel 19 or stream live on cantv.org or on the CAN TV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
We've been talking to Carlos Matallana, founder and developer of Blok by Blok, about education, illustration, and supporting youth and their curiosity and joy about their surroundings, their city, and themselves. As I mentioned, Carlos is a native of Colombia, de Bogotá. Tell us about your upbringing, your journey to the United States, to Chicago, and you mentioned you went to New York, you went to Dallas, and then finally found your home here in Chicago. How all that of those experiences helped shape the curiosity and joy that you mentioned in education and in working with youth?
Thank you. Yes, I think I was born in Bogota. I was privileged to be. To have those three elements that I mentioned before: the food, the family, and the flow. And in the middle of the drug against wars, work against drugs. Sorry, the war against drugs in Colombia, the end of the 80s and the beginning of the 90s. I was like you mentioned before, I was shielded by my family to have a happy childhood. That didn't realize until my teen years that where I was living, So I had a happy childhood. My mom signed me up for a drawing class when I was around 10 or 11. I love to spend time drawing. Either I had a talent, or maybe she saw me investing a lot of time on that, and I need an advice. Maybe my drawings weren't as good, so she's like, okay, he needs an art teacher. So she signed me up for an after school. I have to commute from school to the art space, but I got the chance to not only meet new people from the city, from different parts of the city in that space, but also to navigate the city, to understand some other people's lives, and that was a great thing that my mommy put into it. This fact that she signed me up to that was like a life changer. And then again, I'm doing for after school matters or after school programs, thanks to that and supporting that aspect of it. And then from my dad, I learned to enjoy every little thing in life. It's a cup of coffee or a bread that is shared among friends and family, or a meal. And with my mom, I learned to resolve quickly, to be sharp, to stay, put, to be ready. So those things shaped me to who I am today. And then I moved in 1999 for the Y2K in New York. I remember seeing people with the Y2K in their heads, and it was fun. I spent a lot of time not a lot of, like 6 months in New York. I spent all my savings too. It's an expensive city. I came to Chicago to visit some friends. And then I went back I went to visit a family member in Texas, in Dallas. But after seeing the three places, Chicago stood up the perfect pace. And as you want, if you have a crowd, you know where you go. Public transportation is pretty reliable. And it's not as crowded. And it's not as hectic as New York. So, and I think there is room for arts, and it's a very interesting city, and I'm very active too.
One of the things that you mentioned in the Blok by Blok podcasting or podcasting as a medium for students, young people to express themselves, was the ability que tengan la oportunidad de producir contenido en español.
Sí.
Háblanos un poco sobre, de tu punto de vista como un inmigrante en Estados Unidos y muchos años viviendo en Estados Unidos, la necesidad capaz o la importancia de ser bilingüe.
I think I noticed that like the necessity of the black and brown content back when I was teaching the web design program, because like I have a very diverse group of students. But the black and brown students, their topics were topics that were in like on the online back then. You know, reggaeton wasn't like, you know, on the web, and it wasn't taken seriously. Or a journal where they share like, you know, or LGBT, you know, they're like, so that presence, that online content is relevant. It's not only about seeing someone that look like you, it's actually seeing or hearing someone that had similar experiences that you can relate to. Learning from those are just as relevant and as important as learning from a relative, you know, because they have similar experiences. They led to the same place. Maybe they led to, I don't know, some places that you don't want to go. So you can like learn from experience that's not a good place to be, or that's not a good place to lead to or to go to. So yeah, it's very important. It's very important, and it's not. I think we no tenemos que tener miedo de hablar en español o en inglés. Yo creo que esa es la clave. Esa es la clave de poder comunicarnos como nos venga del corazón, ¿no?
Y muchas veces sentimos la presión, y especialmente de nuestros padres, ¿no?
Uh-huh.
Muchas veces han sufrido discriminación, en parte porque no entienden el idioma, la cultura, todo es nuevo. Y a sus hijos, por protegerlos, le dicen, no, tú vas a hablar inglés, tú eres americano, etcétera, etcétera. Y pierden algo de quiénes son ellos. Pero también es una desventaja, porque en Estados Unidos, fuera del inglés, the most popular other language is Spanish, and so it is not un lujo. It's not a luxury to speak Spanish. It's a necessity, whether you're in education, whether you're in communications, or otherwise. So very important to continue to foster and nurture that tool.
Sí, exacto. Y curiosamente, y hablando con mi familia, uno de los idiomas más hablados en el mundo es el español, por cantidad de gente. Entonces, definitivamente se necesita, de una u otra forma. Y el sistema a veces también te lo muestra como algo más que se necesita saber, pero no tan... Tú ves los avisos en el CTA y el inglés está en letra más grande que el de español. So the Spanish should be same size, same length, and just as well as writing as the English. And that's one thing that I learned recently, that how you can, like, those little things add up.
Yeah, and I think that is an excellent observation, because just like you said, when we're developing messaging and communications, it's important to be reflective. If it's visual, including audio. Language absolutely is a way we self-identify, regardless of our proficiency, whether it's Spanish or in our area, that includes other languages, Polish being one of them, Mandarin. And just a visual of bolder, larger text and then in Spanish or any other language smaller gives you that visual of less than. And that's an important thing to keep in mind.
That's a level of importance. Like, it's right there. It's just present. So, yeah.
Carlos, you've been very generous with your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
When we come back, la última palabra, the last word on funding for after-school programs.
This week on Change Agents, we will meet some leaders who are dedicated to meet the holistic needs of Chicago's refugees.
Regardless of how you fall on the issue of immigration, right, the need is still within our own community. It's in our own backyard.
Join me Thursday at 7:30 p.m. on CanTV 19. Stream us live on cantv.org or watch us on the CanTV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
And now, la última palabra, the last word on the need to fund after-school programs. In today's fast-paced and demanding world, the importance of after-school programs for youth cannot be overstated. These programs play a crucial role in the overall development of children and teenagers, providing them with a safe and supportive environment to learn, grow, and thrive outside regular school hours. From academic enrichment to skill-building activities, after-school programs offer numerous benefits that positively impact the lives of young people. The need for after-school programs is exceptionally high in the Hispanic community. For every Latinx child in an after-school program, 3 are waiting to get in, according to an America After 3 p.m. national survey. Young individuals throughout our state, particularly in communities heavily impacted by a lack of investment over many years, deserve access to secure environments and initiatives that can keep them occupied and away from harmful situations. So how could it be that the Illinois legislature and the governor's office failed last year to keep vital after-school programs up and running? Activists and supporters called for $50 million in supplemental appropriations to allow time for setting up contracts with program providers. The money is needed to make up for a costly spending error by the Illinois State Board of Education, reported the Chicago Sun-Times editorial board. They say ISB overspent federal after-school funds and left some organizations scrambling to keep from shutting down programs. Thousands of students have already lost access to activities, and some 42,000 more children, including in Chicago, will lose out by June 20th, according to Act Now, a statewide advocacy organization. After-school programs provide a structured and supervised setting for children and teenagers. They serve as a safe haven for youth during critical after-school hours when many parents are still at work. By keeping young people engaged in productive activities, these programs help prevent them from engaging in negative behavior or falling into harmful situations. With adult supervision and guidance, children have a reduced risk of engaging in risky behaviors such as drug abuse, violence, or joining gangs. Furthermore, after-school programs contribute significantly to the academic success of youth by offering homework assistance, tutoring, and targeted academic interventions. These programs help students reinforce what they have learned in school and bridge any gaps in their understanding. I encourage you to get involved, support and join organizations like Act Now. Let elected officials know that what matters most to you in regard to the well-being of your children. The best way to affect positive change is through civic engagement, which promotes social justice and strengthens democracy. Democracy depends on our participation. And that does it for this edition of 3 Questions With, a collaboration by Illinois Latino News and CanTV. LNN is dedicated to best serving Hispanic Latinos with local multimedia news and information websites across the U.S., including Illinois Latino News, a statewide community-focused initiative. I invite you to look us up on our websites and chat with us via social media. Tell us what you think about the topics we talked about today, and please send me suggestions about what you think we should talk about in the future. Because at the Latino News Network, you're more than just our audience. You are our contributors. I'm Hugo. Thank you all for watching.